Hey Exiles, PoE Academy here with my top 5 starters for 3.12 Heist League. I handpicked every single build in this list because they provide an affordable and reliable way to start a fresh league. POBs and further links are, as always, in the description down below. Enjoy! First in this list is a Herald of Agony max block Gladiator by Angry Roleplayer. The only disadvantage? Average clear speed. Herald of Agony is a Herald skill gem. When activated, it reserves mana and grants a buff that gives a chance to inflict poison on enemies. Whenever you poison an enemy, it grants Virulence and summons an Agony Crawler minion, which becomes stronger with more stacks of Virulence. Cyclone has very high attack speed and helps us to cap out our Virulence stacks most of the time. Herald of Agony has very high base damage already, so we can use the Gladiator's block nodes to buff our defense significantly. The tree focuses on life and block nodes, with some investment into minion nodes before we get our hands on many of the big cluster jewels that this build heavily benefits from. Try to get your hand on a Cold Iron Point Dagger first to boost the gem's level. A Skin of the Loyal boosts both our damage and survivability. An Anvil Amulet provides a lot of survivability and shouldn't be too difficult to obtain. A Victorious Charity Shield is a decent choice to buff our crawler with charges. Elder Glows with socketed gems are supported by poison and faster attacks are great, but try to get all the medium and large cluster jewels listed in the POB first, as they are extremely effective for this build. You can use Molten Strike or Cyclone until you receive Herald of Agony at level 16. While Herald of Agony is powerful, it can be a bit slow while leveling. You must run Clarity for a while to sustain the mana cost of Cyclone, and a Mana Flask or mana gained on hit jewels help with this issue. I did use Gucci Prada's Volatile Dead Necromancer to start last league, and for sure it was one of the smoothest league starts I ever had. The build performed extremely well, which is why I was able to reach red maps in less than 11 hours playtime. Unfortunately, GGG nerfed Necromancer this league, but don't worry, you can play this build as an assassin too. Volatile Dead is a skill that explodes corpses on the ground, which are then turned into moving fireballs that seek and destroy enemies for a short duration. To spawn these volatiles, you either use dead enemies or you must create corpses yourself by using Desecrate. Using the Spellslinger support gem, you can now proc these two skills on attacks with any wand you like. Simply use a Spellslinger setup for both Volatile Dead and Desecrate and you're good to go. When you take a look at the POB, you will notice that it's a little bit different from what the Necromancer version looked like. You pick up life, mana, block and crit nodes in the passive tree, and don't forget to invest into reduced mana reservation to free up some mana for additional gem links in your Spellslinger setup. The whole setup will be a little bit less tanky than the Necromancer version was, but your damage potential is a lot higher with just average gear. Your first big upgrade should be a Sinks link. Either pick a Tabula Rasa or even better a rare 6 link with life and resistances. 1 or 2 Gifts from Above rings synergize very well with the build. Try to enchant your wand with trigger a socketed spell when you use a skill to automatically cast Wave of Conviction and Assassin's Mark, which is a huge quality of life feature. Since spells scale their damage with levels, try to get your hands on a level 21 Volatile Dead gem. Strong mods for this build are spell damage and critical strike chance on your weapon and shield, recover life on block on your shield, and added fire damage against burning enemies on your gloves. A Wise Oak Flask adds significant damage for bosses, and an Intuitive Leap jewel frees up a lot of skill points. Another big item is a medium cluster jewel with Master of Fear and Evil Eye that buffs both offense and defense significantly. You level this character by playing any spell you like until you have both your Volatile Dead Spellslinger set up and your Desecrate Spellslinger set up. Once you have these, simply use them and crush through all acts and bosses with ease. There's a more detailed video on how to level any Spellslinger character effectively by Marcus Nordstrom, so if you plan to start with this build, you might want to check out his video. You prefer a more relaxed and safer playstyle but still want to crush the endgame? Then you should check out this Totem build. It offers a lot of value due to its efficient tree, Being life mana hybrid makes us quite tanky, and the clear and boss damage from Arc Totems is rather strong. Spell Totem is a support gem that modifies the supported spell so that instead of casting it directly, a totem is summoned that uses the linked spell. Since the totem uses the skill itself, we don't take any reflected damage, but our totems do. We link our spell totem to Arc, a skill that creates a chain lightning. This build uses two different keystones. First, Ancestral Bond, which increases the limit of how many totems we can have active at once by 1, but makes all our other abilities deal 0 damage. Second, we pick Mind Over Matter, which lets 30% of all incoming damage, except chaos damage, be absorbed by our mana. To do this effectively, we don't want to reserve any mana at all. To avoid a significant damage loss from not using a 50% reservation aura, we pick up an Essence Swarm ring, where we place in a big aura. This should be a top priority, and if you have an Essence Swarm ring equipped, you can use a Clear Mind Cobalt ring for a lot of extra damage. Other than those items, we focus on getting a rare 6 link and a shield with the Shaper mod +1 to maximum number of summoned totems. Since spells scale from the gem's level, we want to get our hands on a level 21 gem and find a one with +1 to level of all lightning spell skill gems. This should serve you for a long time, and if you want to continue with the build, search for a medium jewel with Snaring Spirits and Ancestral Reach, as well as gloves with Unnerve on hit. You can level this build using Arc Totems right after finishing Act 1, which is more comfortable but slower than, let's say, a Spellslinger setup. Do you want to play a beefy melee character that slams all content? Look no further, Crash Juggernaut got you covered. While the mapping is rather slow compared to many other builds, you deal extraordinary damage to single targets without any big items. Bashtard has put a nice video guide together that teaches you everything about his unique approach to this archetype. Ice Crash is an attack skill that strikes the ground, converting your physical damage to cold damage, and creating a wave of expanding icicles in an area around you. The damage is weaker further away from you, but still good enough to one-shot any yellow mobs. With the right setup, this skill hits incredibly hard and is one of the most underrated melee skills in my opinion. We use two one-handed maces called Doyani's Catalysts for this build. They drop from normal Atziri and are quite cheap to obtain every league. The Juggernaut Ascendancy synergizes very well with the playstyle of Ice Crash, and the tree in general is very efficient. Without any serious investment, we can reach a lot of damage already. This build doesn't require any keystones, but you can pick Glancing Blows if you like. Regarding the gear, you should rush 2 Doyani's Catalysts as soon as possible. Any rare 6-link body armor works. Rim Sorrow gloves convert the remaining physical damage from Ice Crash to cold damage. Lion's Roar, Atziri's Promise and Taste of Hate are nice additions to the build as they all buff our defense and offense. Also, get a Mark of the Elder Ring. You don't want to level this build with Ice Crash, but Bladestorm. Luckily, there is a decent guide on how to do this by Tai Killer. Finally, I'm very happy to see that Glacial Cascade received a rework. Don't get me wrong, a Glacial Cascade miner is an extremely strong boss killer, but the mapping experience always felt a bit lackluster. With 3.12, its AoE got buffed, and additionally, the skill now converts all its damage to cold damage, making it even better for league starts. We use the skill High Impact Mine linked to Glacial Cascade. Every mine that is placed reserves a small proportion of mana, which is released once the mine is detonated remotely. Similar to Totems, we don't use any skill ourselves, which is why we can't receive any reflected damage either. This is extremely valuable early in the league because we don't have to care about corrupted map mods nor reflected damage from Atziri. The tree does not use any keystones. Mine nodes are very strong themselves and efficient to pick up. The only important nodes that we must allocate at some point are the mana reservation nodes in the Templar area to free up enough mana so that we can place at least 14 mines at the same time. With this allocation and a mediocre item setup, we can easily reach about 3 million DPS. Yes, 3 million with bad gear. Our first objective should be a rare 6-link or even better a 6-link Carcass Jack. A Crown of the Inward Eye helmet should be available quite early into the league. It gives a lot of life and damage, so try to get one as soon as possible. Nice damage upgrades are +1 to level of all the cold spell skill gems on a shield or +1 to level of all cold skill gems on an amulet. If you struggle with mana, pick up a Levianga's Spirit Flask. Leveling mines is amazingly easy and smooth. Simply follow the leveling guide of Asmodeus clips and swap to Glacial Cascade mines whenever you feel like it. Before I end this video, you might want to check out these honorable mentions too. What is the build you are starting Heist League with? I was thinking of Crackling lands because it looks very cool, but my experience tells me to stick to a proven concept, which is why I haven't decided yet. Thanks for staying with me until the end, and see you in the next one.